before.
I feel like Sam probably goes to a salon too. I would bet on Austin going to a salon as well. I would honestly, Austin, I would bet on you going to a salon like every 3 weeks. I could see you being the person that has like it's scheduled.
2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, I get my hair cut. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually let it go for like a month or two.
Me too. I'm like a month and a half. I go to a barber.
Yeah.
I get a girl. Same thing.
Same guy every time.
You have some nice flow like up top, Sam. For like
That's blow dried. That's for sure.
No.
It looks like you wore a hat and then you took it off.
Yeah, it's more like
That's
that.
what my hair does when I do it. That's
Wait, would you say he wore a hat and then took it off?
Yeah, like when I get out of I almost always wear a hat. So when I get out of the shower, I put a hat on and then it just.
Oh, so you use the hat to shape your hair?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I don't use product.
That's an interesting technique.
I use pomade. That's the way to go.
I just tell her to to make me look good, and then
just say, "Do you?" You just go in there and say, "Do you?"
When I walked in there today, she said, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, "Just do what you normally do. Make it so that I can pass as a professional if I need to." Then she does it.
Yeah.
Can we just send this clip to Oli?
Maybe I'll have it be the intro or something.
All right.
So, welcome to episode 5, VT Roundtable. We are kind of working with the skeleton crew tonight. We had a couple guys that couldn't make it. Adam and Drew are missing. However, we decided to push on and go ahead and do this thing anyway. We are going to just hang out and chat tonight, so we're not booting anybody off. Everyone's going to be here till the end. No Survivor, no special games or anything like that. We're just going to hang out and chat. And hopefully that's going to allow us to keep this thing about 30 minutes tonight. Hopefully that's what we're kind of shooting for. So first things first, we're going to start off talking about the Vikings offense. This offseason, there hasn't been a ton of changes to the unit as a whole, but one of the biggest changes is kind of an addition by subtraction, or maybe not an addition, I guess it depends on your opinion, of, the Vikings lost Adrian Peterson. So some of the things they added, they brought in Latavius Murray, and we brought in 2 tackles. So the team has done some things to try and make some improvements on offense. Admittedly, they needed to do that because they kind of had a lackluster season last year. So one of the things I was kind of thinking about, and I forget where it came up in a conversation. I think, you know what? I think I may have heard it on the About the Labor podcast, actually. Shameless plug. Listen to the About the Labor podcast. I think you guys were talking about whether or not this team, or whether or not the Vikings offense had an identity. So that was the first question I kind of wanted to put out there tonight. Do you think the Vikings offense has an identity? If it is, what is that identity? Who wants to go first? We got 4. I
nominate
Sam. Sam wants to go first. Go ahead, Sam.
Because I have an answer, I guess. Yeah, absolutely they have an identity. It's the exact thing that everybody called for the first half of the last season and then complained about for the second half when they finally instituted it. It's that West Coast short passing game. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Get it in the hands of the receivers. Hope they can break a tackle or make a play and try to dink and duck down the field. No discernible running game to speak of until proven otherwise. Now, this year, if with the additions on the offensive line, if they can get that unit to be average, I think you're going to see a lot more shots down the field, and I think they can start hitting a lot of those shots down the field because Bradford has the arm strength and the accuracy. And if and when they do that will open everything up. But for now, until we see something else, it's that dink and dunk offense.
So the identity hasn't changed, and it's the same identity that they had last season.
I believe so, yeah, because I don't think we can expect the running game to take a big jump. I mean, I think we're hoping it gets a little bump, and honestly, I think Murray will help out more in the pass game than he will in the run game. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that I don't think changes the identity a whole lot. Okay,
BJ, what's up? What do you think?
I think that what Sam's referring to so eloquently, as he always does, is more the state of the offense as opposed to the identity of the offense. I actually disagree with Sam on this one. I don't think that the dink and dunk passing game is the identity of this team. As Brett noted, Drew and I talked about this on the About the Labor podcast. I said on that show that I thought that Mike Zimmer is still looking for, kind of his next Adrian Peterson, another guy to facilitate that running game. because this team predicates on defense. This team tries to win with defense. And when you try to win with defense, your goal is to control the ball, to control time of possession, control the flow of the game, basically control everything you can without, putting 40 points up on the board. Your goal is to score, couple touchdowns, couple field goals, and win ugly. And winning ugly tends to predicate off of a running game. There's a reason why the Vikings running back engagement list has popped up to 12 different carriers, because they're looking for the next Adrian Peterson. And I think there's a reason why they've been so, honed in on Joe Mixon, because this is the type of guy that, if he didn't punch a woman, he would probably be a top-tier talent. And the Vikings recognize that this is a guy that could be a franchise rusher, assuming they're able to rehabilitate his personality. So to me, that basically spells out that this is a defense-first, run-the-ball down your throat team, and they're going to do it with a three-headed attack this year with a bruiser in Murray, a change of pace, scat back type in McKinnon, and whatever the guy is that they bring in to try to mold, whether that's Joe Mixon himself or another one of the 11 guys that Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman have brought in this year.
Why does defense first always have to be accompanied by run it down your throat offense?
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be, but it works hand in hand very well, because of defense that's keeping the other offense off the field by running the ball, by chugging up time and just essentially controlling the clock. It gives your defense, it keeps them, flow of the game, it keeps them well rested, and it basically just forces the other offense to continue to come out against a strong defense that's well prepared to stop them.
Yeah, and I get that. Go ahead, Sam.
If I may, I agree with that, but I would assert you can do all of those things. You can control the game, you can keep the defense off the field, et cetera, with the passing game that they set up near the end of last season as well.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm just saying, I think the passing game that you're, noting here, I think the short passing game and the quick completion rate, obviously the high completion percentage keeps the clock rolling as well. I think that complements the running game, which I think is still going to be the go-to. Not to say that I agree with it. I think the Vikings could, afford to come into the contemporary NFL a little bit with regard to the split on pass versus run. But at the same time, I still think this is a run-first team, and I think that that's kind of what Mike Zimmer has tried to install since he got here. And there's a reason why I think they've been so stingy about getting rid of Adrian Peterson, and really kind of the release of Peterson might be a little bit overdue, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, personally, I feel like they're moving away from that.
I would hope you're right about
that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just haven't really seen anything this offseason that points to them, I guess other than meeting with Joe Mixon, that really points to them wanting to resort back to that style of offense.
Yeah. I don't think they have the offensive line to play smash mouth run game. Do you, Austin?
I do not. Thanks for the segue, Sam. Appreciate it. Beautiful. It's interesting. I think when we talk about state versus identity, they're at a state that doesn't match what Zimmer wants the identity to be. I think the state is they run off Sam Bradford's arm of let's throw the quick passes, let's take advantage of our guys in space. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, underrated athlete. I think Adam Thielen's about on the same athletic table as Cordero Patterson was. So to say size-wise, measurables-wise, but I think the identity they want, and this is kind of a surprise. And while you guys were talking, I thought, it makes sense to me that they like a lot of the concepts that Norv Turner had when Norv Turner was in town. They still want a deep threat wide receiver. They still have a bunch of possession guys in Treadwell, in Thielen, who, I know Andy Benoit said he is a possession guy, and I would agree with that on some accounts. But I think the interest that they've shown in adding a deep threat, the players that they already have, and the quarterback they have kind of tell me that they're not going to switch over to this smash mouth run first offense, whether they like it or not. That, and they just don't have the offensive line, like Sam said, to do it. So
I would disagree with that point.
You think they? I don't think inside they do. I just think.
BJ, did you watch the team last year?
No, I'm projecting the team moving forward here. Mike Remmers and Riley Reif are both better run blockers than pass protectors. That's actually noted by our coach in a recent press conference as well. So I'm not just basing this off of crap. I just think that this team is more prone in setting the tone and running the football. Joe Berger, for example, does a better job blocking ahead of him than he does moving back on his hips. So
Sure.
the entire team is built around the idea to run the football, whether they're able to, like last year, which was dreadful. No, that I haven't forgotten about that by any means. I'm just saying they're building towards continuing to run the football. I think that's a very big piece of what they're trying to do.
Wouldn't you guys say that the identity that every team wants is no identity? You want to be like the Patriots and that you can do whatever you want any week, any given week. You want to be able to.
Interesting.
You what?
I think you're being philosophical now.
I'm just thinking about it. I mean,
No, I
you
agree
want to
with
be able to
Austin.
line up every week. No, I know, but you want to be able to line up every week and say, how are we going to beat the Packers? What can we do to beat the Packers? Well, you're not going to run the ball against someone like Mike Neal and the interior defensive line that they have. You're going to try and burn those crap corners that they have. You play against the Bears, again, who have a great front seven. I just don't see the Vikings being someone who's going to go in next year, and
Which next week?
dominate teams on the ground. I just don't see that happening. Yeah. I think that as long as you've got Sam Bradford, as long as you've got the players you do, and the minimal offensive line improvements you've made, I don't think there's going to be a whole change in this pass first, quick throw identity that they've already established.
I'm not necessarily advocating that there's going to be a change. I'm just saying that this is still part of the agenda that Mike Zimmer is bringing forth, right? I'm not saying the Vikings are set to run the ball, that they're just instantly going to become a great rushing attack, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that their goal is still to run the ball down teams' throats. And that there's a reason why they brought in Murray on top of McKinnon, and they're also interviewing all of these running backs all over the place because they do want, let's just put it this way. Simply put, they value the running game probably more than a lot of teams. That's my basic take.
I think
that's part of the identity of what makes up a Mike Zimmer football team. That's my take.
I mean, excluding the offensive line, I think, and I saw this point made on Twitter today, I don't know who it was, but they said that, every running back, whether it be in the NFL or the draft, has to be thanking Ezekiel Elliott for raising the value of running backs to the point where teams actually want, someone like Elliott or someone who can do both things in the backfield with options like McKinnon. So I think to the Patriots again with someone like Blunt, and then you got a guy like Dion Lewis who can line up outside, James White who can line up outside. I think that's a model that a lot of teams want to follow.
I can't disagree with you on that. I did bring up the idea a couple weeks back. It was not a very well-rounded idea, but the idea of the Vikings potentially drafting 2 running backs in this class and loading up on short, condensed field assets, right? Like the brought up about working well in space. The guys who, if you have multiple backs in your backfield and you start running some wing T stuff and just some crazy running game stuff with all the athletes the Vikings are putting forth. I mean, they have all these different players in these. Carlos Henderson, another guy that's a short area quickness dude. All of these guys that they've brought in to this team, I could entirely see you being right, and their goal being more to add different dimensions to their rushing attack as opposed to where I'm coming from, what I believe in, that they're trying to continue being about a 50-50 offense.
Yeah,
I'm saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this is that's what I think.
No, I know where you're coming from. I get it.
Hearing you say you think the Vikings might take 2 running backs in this draft.
Yeah,
really just rubs me the wrong way because I will be. I mean, I think I'll be upset if they spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a running back. If they spend 2 picks on running backs,
but a 3rd rounder, undrafted free agent.
No, because I don't think. I mean, I know if Adam, I'll speak for Adam. He's not here. Always draft BPA, right?
Right.
No, always draft.
So maybe. Or always draft tight end. So maybe if Joe Mixon is there in the 3rd round, sure, maybe you pull a trigger. He could be an elite talent. But I think you roll with Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. I don't understand the desire to bring in another top-tier running back onto this team.
It's exactly what Austin was saying, I think. Teams are envious. The Patriots do that better than anybody else, the way that they can adjust their scheme to whoever they're playing that week. And I don't think the Vikings are sold on Murray and McKinnon being the two backs that can essentially do things that are so different from each other that are going to give them that flexibility. And like BJ said, Zimmer said multiple times he's committed to fixing this run game. I think that's actually true. And so to add – the Murray deal's short. I mean, can't they get out of the Murray deal after 1 year? I don't know that they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an experiment with benefits, essentially.
Yeah. So I think, like BJ said, they're looking for that guy of the future. I don't know if they're looking for the next Adrian. But
Joe Mixon, I don't think introducing him into this offense, I don't think revolutionizes it. You know,
Joe Mixon is the best running back in the class. I'm putting that down right.
And I get that.
I disagree with
but
that point.
I don't think he's Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm not sure that introducing him into the offense, like the difference between McKinnon and Murray and then Joe Mixon, I don't think is going to be a game changer for this offense.
It's not going to take the offense to the next level. I mean, you even saw it last
especially
year.
behind this offensive line. It's not going to do a dang thing.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, you saw they had to use the Wildcat, and they had to use a bunch of different types of things to get anything going on the ground. So adding, say Adrian Peterson was good last year, which he wasn't. If he was healthy, I don't think he would have rushed for 600 yards. So you have to fix the offensive line before you even think about, let's add the best running back in the class just because we can.
Okay, that's true, guys, right now. But Adam says this all the time and says he's not here. I'm going to bring it up. You're saying that now in April.
Yeah,
what's going to happen in December?
Well, and that's a great point, Sam. And that's why I want to talk. I don't get to talk very much, so I want to say one more thing while we're talking about this.
I want you to talk more.
All right, so offensive line. I'll go on record right now. The offensive line is, I don't think, that much better than it was last season right now. And I think a lot of people are of the opinion that the two additions that the Vikings have made is going to drastically improve the offensive line. I think maybe we may be to mediocre at this point. Maybe. And
I think it's better.
There is nobody behind those two. So, once again, we're dealing with the depth issue. If Reef goes down, what are we looking at? So I think I've said it a million times, and obviously best player available in the draft. I know. But like if I'm in the war room later this month, I am heavily investing in offensive line at every chance I get. Maybe almost exclusively. I don't know, but this team has to focus on the offensive line for once. Otherwise, all of these other offensive weapons you're talking about aren't going to make the slightest difference. So, anyway, that's my soapbox.
I agree. I think they need to invest in the offensive line. No, that's absolutely true.
So running back, I will be disappointed, I think, if
there's a ton of running back draft. I mean, you could wait
4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I think they will.
You could wait till the 5th or 6th and get some guy that's going to be good for your team. Like there's Marlon Max, there's the guy from Penn State. There's who else is there? The guy from Utah.
Yeah.
What?
Brian Hill, Joe Williams, Corey Clement. I mean, the list goes on. I'm not disproving this point that you're making here. All of you guys, I guess, that it is a very deep class. The Vikings can certainly acquire talent at the running back position in the 4th or 5th round. I just think that this team really values a potentially game-changing running back, and I think that at pick 48 or pick 73 or 79, you have very limited options in that regard, and Joe Mixon is one of them. And there's a reason why they're doing a ton of work on him. There's a reason why they're doing a ton of work on Alvin Kamara from Tennessee, too, because those two guys are the most potentially game-changing backs that can really revolutionize an offense because this team cares about running the football. That's why they've had both those guys in for numerous visits. They've had workouts with each of them, personal meetings, interviews, psychological tests with those two guys specifically. I think that says a lot about what this team is trying to do.
All right, so we're kind of already talking about the draft, which is going to be a good transition into our next topic. And I think we may already have BJ's answer on this question. So the next thing I want to talk about is we're gonna do a little hypothetical, You're in the Vikings war room, okay? And you are about to be on the clock. Spielman, he's looking over at you. He's waiting for your highly coveted recommendation. So, assuming within reason, obviously, especially drafting at 48, it's very hard to predict who's going to be available at that point. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just assume that, some of the guys that you're targeting specifically are available to you at that point. So, who is your recommendation to Spielman on the clock at 48 if the guys that, within reason that you're expecting to be around at that point are still there? What is your recommendation to him? Let's start with Austin.
Oh man, that's tough. What was the year where the Vikings let their pick just pass and they didn't make a pick?
2003.
Can that be me? No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna let that happen.
Was it Kevin Williams? 2003.
Oh, Mike Tice. It was the Williams year, yeah.
2003.
That's tough. I think about the offensive linemen that are going to be there. I don't know who they're going to be. I personally don't think this draft is going to play out like a lot of people say. You'll probably see someone You'll probably see someone like Christian McCaffrey go top 10. You'll probably see a quarterback that you didn't expect go top 15, kind of like E.J. Manuel. And my guess, just my gut feeling, is that one of the top tackles falls to the top of the second mid-second round, and you get a guy, I don't know how to say his last name, the guy from Wisconsin that Drew loves so much.
Ryan
Ramczyk? Yeah. So someone like that, Garrett Bowles, dude from Wisconsin, Forrest Lamp, who can play guard. I think you go after, and Adam would hate me for this, but your biggest need and the best player available at that need. So any one of those three guys, if they're on the board, I'm pulling the trigger, as we like to say. All
right, Sam, what about you? Because I think we'll end with BJ, but I kind of feel like we know where he's at on this one.
No, I agree with Austin, just based on the way this question's asked. Assuming that the value, the caliber of player that's there is somewhat consistent across position. I would go with offensive line. I like Feeney from Indiana, like everybody else, and think he has a chance of being available there. I'd pull the trigger on that one, because it's your need, but also because some of these other positions that we're talking about are a lot more deep than offensive line is in this draft, and we're going to be able to find a good running back later, outside linebacker, interior D-line, stuff like that. So, I would go guard. I agree with what you said, Brett, that I think the best case scenario for this offensive line going into this year is probably around middle of the pack average, but I don't think there's much anyone's going to do to change that at this point. Even doing something drastic like drafting 5 offensive linemen or something like that, which you're essentially doing to the detriment of your team because you're going to have issues elsewhere if you do that, and who knows how many of those guys are going to be ready. So
I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek.
Sure. But I would target O-line early if at all possible. You don't want to reach, but if it's there, it's there.
All right, BJ, surprise us. Not Joe Mixon?
No, absolutely not. I don't want Joe Mixon. I thought I made that 2 episodes ago.
Oh.
I do not want to draft Joe Mixon at all.
I must have not been listening very well then.
Talk about the character issues with Joe Mixon a couple.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's right. But I feel like from what you said in the first question, I feel like maybe you were saying you think they're going to take him. That's not necessarily what you want. Right.
This is going to come out of right field then. I want him to draft an outside linebacker. Or an inside linebacker with coverage skills. I believe that's the greatest need. The offensive line is everyone's go-to saying this is the greatest need. But what that boils down to essentially is you're saying that the right guard position is the greatest need because you're expecting Joe Berger to return for at least one more year. You just invested a bunch of capital in Riley Reif and Mike Remmers. You're expecting to get productivity from them. They're going to start. Let's be real here. Left guard, Alex Boone is a former all-pro caliber player. You expect him to get up to that level at some point here. You're essentially looking to lock down that right guard spot. Dan Feeney is an outstanding option. If he's sitting right there, which I do not expect him to be, I'm all in on going for him there. I love the idea of drafting Malik McDowell, too, because I think that 3-tech is underrated in how important it is within that Zimmer scheme in terms of trying to stylistically attack offensive lines in a way that just they don't even see it coming. At the same time, I still think that the Vikings got burned the most last season by not being able to cover tight ends. And that's because, 1, on Anthony Barr, he's got to straight up improve. And 2, Chad Greenway is a straight up liability when they get thrown back in their 4-3 set. Indianapolis blew us out in 1 quarter because we could not cover a guy that played basketball in college 1 year before. This isn't Antonio Gates where it's like 12 years removed and you're sick of hearing it. This is a guy that barely could play football. Nobody even knew who he was. As far as everyone was concerned, he was still a Miami Hurricane forward, and he was burning everyone. That should show that should be warning signals everywhere. And the Packers emulated it. I mean, Jermaine Gresham in Arizona dominated. I mean, who knows who that guy is anymore? I mean, he's not like blatant enough that the Vikings need to address that coverage linebacker spot. So whether that's either moving Eric Kendricks outside and sticking him on guys that are probably 3 to 6 inches taller than him, or rehabilitating Anthony Barr and figuring out what's wrong with him, and then drafting an inside linebacker so that when you do get forced in that 4-3 set, you're able to stand up on him.
Yeah,
you got to do something there.
I feel like you missed a plug for your Kentrell Brothers story.
Yeah, you've been dancing around it.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, fair enough. But,
I'll do it then. BJ has a great article at VT about Kentrell Brothers, VikingsTerritory.com.
Check it
Go
out.
over there now.
But I'll boil it down to one player for you, and I do not expect this guy to be there at 48, 73, 79, whatever. But if Zach Cunningham from Vanderbilt, the linebacker, he's an inside linebacker on paper. I think he's an outside linebacker. I love his ability to cover in both man, running backs out of the backfield, tight ends over the middle. I think he does a very good job flipping his hips like a cornerback. That's the guy that I absolutely would love to see the Vikings get. I just don't see it happening. So I'll go with Raekwon McMillan from Ohio State because I think that he slots in there and fills that void that, he might only end up getting 35, 40 snaps a game out of him depending on what set you'd run out of. But I think that that's a guy that actually fills a bigger void than drafting an offensive lineman does, at least for now, assuming that you're able to table this discussion in the third round, drafting an elf line or whoever it is at some point. You do have to address the offensive line. I'm just saying I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
48.
Vikings dropped the ball this offseason, okay? And you want me to tell you why? You want me to tell you why they dropped the ball?
Let's say it on 3.
1, 2, 3.
Zach Brown.
Austin is an informed man. He knows. We could have had Zach Brown. This could have solved everything. Then we wouldn't have to draft one. But
why didn't they sign him?
I don't know.
He wasn't even in the building.
I don't know.
Washington, Miami.
Where did he go to? He went to Washington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That sucks for him.
Didn't work out. Wouldn't even have to talk about drafting a linebacker. And did anyone see Anthony Barr's workout videos on Instagram? Because we all care about player Instagrams.
Are we talking about player Instagrams? Because did you guys see the one where Teddy Bridgewater,
Trust
I think
game?
his girlfriend or a friend or something put an apple or something on her head, and he threw the football and knocked it off the top of her head? No? Nobody saw that?
I did not. I didn't see the Anthony Barr one either.
What do you guys do all day?
I sit on Slack.
Oh. Okay. Well, get on Instagram. You gotta follow our players. You gotta know Stephon Diggs is doing work. Okay, if you follow Stephon Diggs, you know that dude is working. Yeah. All right.
What was the significance of Anthony Barr's?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. He looks like he's in shape, working hard.
Yeah, football player looks like he's in shape.
Yes, best shape of his life, as they all say.
I know, and we're getting kind of off track here, and we have to kind of hurry up. I used to love following Patterson because that dude has the most interesting social media account of all time. But
like a fun.
Yeah,
and he's an electric personality.
Yeah, so I'm gonna miss that. I might have to unfollow just because he's a Raider now. Las Vegas Raider though, that might be my second team. Who knows?
True.
All right, real quick, we're gonna wrap up with some fantasy football. We haven't talked about fantasy football on the round table before. Are you guys big fantasy football heads or?
Brett, I am.
Yeah. Austin and I are in a dynasty league together. We just invited him to the dynasty league this year. He's making some terrible decisions that I'm going to talk to him about privately.
I have no money left. My team, I was the Browns before I started, and now I'm like 49ers.
He did take over an incredibly horrible team. I mean, yeah, they'd make the Browns look good. I mean, there was literally no one on the roster.
Come on, my team's
he had
a
like
lot
five players. Yeah, all right. But anyway, so we're going to talk about fantasy football, specifically fantasy football as it relates to the Vikings. Are there any Vikings players worth owning this year?
Yes.
We're talking non-PPR. And I want you guys, I mean, realistically, like, really worth owning. I mean, I know there's some guys in, like, a later round that you might pick up as a flyer, right? But is there anyone that you're targeting because you are absolutely sure they're going to blow up and have a big fantasy season this year? I see some nodding of the heads. I'm trying to see who I'm going to start with.
I'm
going to go with Sam first because, yeah, he's shaking his head no. So what's up, Sam?
I cannot fathom why any Vikings fan would want to draft a Viking to their fantasy football team. All you are doing is setting yourself up for double the disappointment. We know this is what this team does to you, and now it's going to hurt you financially as well when you are disappointed in the fact that whatever player you draft will not, I repeat, will not perform up to expectations, and you can take that one to the bank. Also, listen, guys, I've owned Adrian Peterson before. I will admit when he was good, and I'm watching the games, and anytime anyone has the ball, anyone other than Peterson, inside the 5-yard line, I'm rooting for them not to score a little bit in my head. How insane is that? It ruins, fundamentally, my enjoyment of watching the team more than it's already been ruined. I will not do it, and neither should you.
It's tough, Sam. What you got to do here? Let me tell you how you fix that problem. Instead of just being in one fantasy league, you get in like 5 to 6, like I do, and then basically you own everybody. And so at that point, you're basically not even rooting for anyone in particular to score because either you own one of the people that's scoring or someone that you're playing that week owns them. So you really just don't even watch until the end and just kind of go check your scores.
Valid point.
But
more teams.
But yes. So what about you, BJ?
I think that you target Stephon Diggs. I mean, you quickly eliminated that this isn't a PPR discussion, but I personally play in multiple PPR leagues. I think that people watching this do as well. He's absolutely a must-own in PPR, and I don't really feel like I need to,
Yeah. Okay. You're not.
No, that's fair.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Because every wide receiver. Every wide receiver is pretty much valuable in PPR. Okay, there are receivers on the Cleveland Browns that are valuable in PPR leagues.
Diggs' ability to score you like 7 more points just because he catches way too many passes.
I know, I get that, but the question is non-PPR because PPR is too
easy. Either way, points still stand. Stephon Diggs is a wide receiver 2, in my opinion. You're not drafting him to be your guy, but he's going to get you results. This guy's going to score. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to catch passes. That's the stuff that you can project in fantasy football. On top of that, Latavius Murray, I would absolutely try to own him. I wouldn't gun for him, but he's going to score from the end. He was brought in to get short yardage. That means they're going to give him the ball at the goal line, and he's going to also be getting anywhere between 12 and 20 touches, whether that's out of the backfield, catching the ball, or just up the gut. I mean, this guy he's going to get a bunch of touches. If a guy that averages 18 to 20 touches a game, that's a guy that you want to own. I don't care if it's a flex or an RB2. Either way, that's a player that you want to own as well. I think that you can make a case for Adam Thielen, but Stephon Diggs is really the one guy that, if I'm not a Vikings fan, that I look at this Vikings roster and say, that's a guy that I want on my fantasy football team.
Is it crazy if I would draft Jerick McKinnon before Latavius Murray?
No.
I would say yes, but I don't. I mean, they obviously don't think so, so I'm not.
Everyone hates Jerick McKinnon, man.
No, I think you're kind of. Are you starting a second fan club, Brett?
I might.
Because I've seen a lot from McKinnon on you, and I feel like you're reacting to the fact that you think he's disrespected among your peers.
He is disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I didn't get an answer.
You don't get one.
Chime in.
Episode's over. Subscribe.
No, I'll keep it short. I've been saying this for like 5 years, but I think this is the year that Kyle Rudolph finally has a big fantasy football year.
I like that.
He had a really nice year last year, and I think one more season with Shermer and Bradford, he's going to blow up. Top five fantasy tight end. Book it.
He was sixth last year, I think, right? Wasn't he?
There we go. And I'm done. I'm going to sign off now.
Yeah, the problem is I hate tight ends in fantasy, man. We should just get rid of the tight end position in fantasy football. No. Rudolph will get you he'll have some big weeks for you where it's touchdown dependent, right?
He's very
it's touchdown dependent. Yeah. So if he scores a touchdown, he'll get you some points. Otherwise,
yes.
That's pretty much the case for every tight end except for like 3 guys probably.
Yep.
Except for Gronkowski, who's coming off back surgery.
Yeah, Jordan Reed. What's the Carolina dude's name?
Greg
Olsen,
Yeah.
ageless.
I would say Greg Olson's is probably the ceiling for Kyle Rudolph. I think that he could get that and he could score at that rate. I think that's a fair comp. I think it's a little bit outlandish because Greg Olson is Greg Olson and Kyle Rudolph is Kyle Rudolph. But I think that's
production-wise, yeah,
a good ceiling for fantasy stats wise.
I can't buy in on the Kyle Rudolph hype for a couple of reasons. One of which being I've been burned probably 20 times by Kyle Rudolph because I've said the same thing over and over and over again. And then two, until we get that offensive line fixed to bring it full circle.
Yep. Fair.
Yeah.
But I like him anyway.
So, all right, guys. Well, we're right above 30. We're at probably 33 minutes, I think,
Sweet.
according to my watch. So,
Good news.
that was fun, right? Everyone got to stick around. Maybe
good.
we won't. You know what? I think this will just be the roundtable moving forward.
Just forget the other guys.
Don't tell Drew and Adam. Let them watch themselves, and then if they still think they're in it next week, we know they didn't watch all the way through.
That's true. That's true.
And
And we
then
know
we'll-
Adam has no around here.
Then we just won't let them in. So, anyway, we're gonna wrap up. So, thanks for watching. Please please subscribe. We're almost to 100 subscribes, and we get some added bonuses on YouTube when we get to 100 subscribers. Hook me up, man. And also, I think Austin, I don't know if this is the best time to announce it, but we're probably gonna be doing a giveaway soon for YouTube related stuff. We have a pretty cool prize that Austin managed to acquire. So anyway, stay tuned for that, and we'll be back next week. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
See you guys.